Oh, okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, organized in collaboration with Global Trade Forum and the Ankara Policy Center on Chinese Economic Silk Road, or BRI. I am Ümit Alperen, visiting scholar at Taiwan National Tsinghua University and also assistant professor at Süleyman Demirel University in Turkey. I'm your moderator, and also I am excited to be here with you. First of all, please let me introduce our organizer. Global Trade Forum, or GTF, is a knowledge-sharing cooperation platform of global thought leaders. GTF is a SCR initiative by Harlem Attorney at Law. The GTF serves as an individual think tank that brings together members from all over the world, including big corporations, technology-based companies, aviation and aerospace industries, and startups. Our other partner is Ankara Policy Center, is a think tank based in Ankara. APC is an independent of political parties and interest groups. It studies strategic expansion on social change, creates variety of solutions, and supports the creation of solutions through data-driven analytic research. APC promotes discussion on the level of civil society and aims to support policy development and promote participation. Its goal is to present its policy recommendation to private and public institutions, the media, and the public. And we will be hearing from three expert speakers on Chinese BRI. Our first speakers will be Selma Bardakçı from Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey, Business Council Coordinator, Center for Asia Leadership, who is Turkey advisor. We will hear from Selma, who will give us an overview on the economic diplomacy aspect of China and the Middle East. Our second speaker will be Dr. Ferhat Asif, who is president at the Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies, and who is chairperson at the Diplomatic Insight Group, advisor board, member of 𝐂𝐤𝐧𝐚𝐽 Intelligence. We will hear from Asif, who will focus on the Central Asia perspective on Chinese influence, particularly in the context of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Our third speaker is Diren Doğan, who is lecturer at Alanya Alaaddin Keykubat University. Diren will address the international security dynamics within the BRI context, especially focus on the Middle East. Also, our participants, feel free to share your question in the chat. After our speaker, they will answer your question. Now, without further ado, let's give the floor to our speaker. First of all, Selma Bardakçı. And my question to Selma, what are the implications of Chinese growing economic influence in the Middle East and Europe for the United States and its global economic and geopolitical standing? What are the dynamics? Also, what are the dynamics of Chinese economic diplomacy in the Middle East, particularly in the context of Belt and Road Initiative? Please, you have the 15 minutes and...
Okay, you can hear me, right? There is no problem at the voice?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So thank you so much, Ümit Hocam, for your kind invitation and kind introduction. First of all, I would like to also thank GTF and Ankara Policy Center for organizing this all-woman speakers panel. I'm delighted to join today. So I'm working at the Foreign Economic Relations Board of Turkey as the Business Council's coordinator for various countries. They are mainly from Asia-Pacific countries, but also from Europe and Africa. I'm also the advisor for Center for Asia Leadership, where I spent a year previously in Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur, at the center's regional hub as an international fellow. So this is a very important topic that we are going to discuss today. I'm delighted to involve this panel with all these speakers. Also from Pakistan, Dr. Asif, and then Diren Hanım from Keykubat University, and Ümit Hoca. Thank you so much. So before I started to dive into BRI question, I will, since I've been working at economic and business diplomacy area, I'm going to focus on the economic diplomacy aspect of Beijing, and we'll discuss the new trends of it. Before the economic diplomacy part also, I would like to emphasize the rise of Global South, where the emerging markets, new growth poles, and competitions are. Indeed, who is winning the global south and who is going to build more influence? That kind of questions have been asking today as we've been discussing, and the Middle East is an important part of global south. Since there are lots of interests in the global south, not just come from China, even though today we are talking about China, but also India and others, US, European Union, other big countries like Japan, South Korea, they're also very much interested in the Middle East. And I believe that the increasing geopolitical divergence presents an opportunity for some countries in the global south to strengthen their presence, which are in the Middle East today. So before the BRI question, I would like to emphasize more on global south terminology, since we have been talking a lot and who is going to win the competition over there recently. It's been a highlighted topic from the many audiences. So, of course, as you mentioned, BRI, and I will come to this point later, maybe about US and EU part, with your permission. Middle East is an important part of global south, and when we talk about Chinese Middle East diplomacy, economic diplomacy is a crucial part of it. And BRI is a vehicle for Beijing to cultivate linkages with the global south beyond trade. It has been very transformative for sure since it was initiated. $1 trillion of capital flow to BRI member states in different projects and investments. Of course, when we look at BRI priorities globally, we have 5 priorities, and anything can relate it with BRI priorities. When we count it, they are, of course, the cooperation priorities such as policy coordination, connectivity of infrastructure, free trade, financial integration, and closer people-to-people ties. Since 2013, we see China has been becoming a very visible actor in the Middle East, and he's been very much evolving in the Middle East. So, of course, Chinese diplomacy has shown cooperative interest in the Middle East, and there are successful initiatives have been achieved through the form of foreign direct investment in technology and infrastructure, and other cooperation, regional and bilateral with the countries in the region. Of course, when we think about Chinese Middle East diplomacy, there are some traditional ways that they pursue the diplomacy there, which are ensuring the energy security and pursuing economic interests. In addition to this, we can call this new. China has been increasing coordination of the BRI with regional countries, deepening economic and diplomatic ties. When I'm saying this, of course, the last year was the 10th anniversary of the China's BRI initiative, and there are still many questions need to be asked, also needs to be answered by both beneficial countries, but also China. My point at this topic would be more about China's adjust new economic diplomacy involvement in the region, and it has multi-layered factors and tools. So I would like to start with some 2 or 3 food for thoughts how these new, let's say, economic diplomacy will be occurring in the region. So first of all, of course, this is not a one-sided love story. It's a mutual love story. So China's and Middle Eastern countries have complementary relationships to each other. And with this new economic diplomacy part, we see Middle Eastern countries rising demand for economic developments. Many of these countries want to diversify their economic development models and seek for advanced industrialization. For example, we have Saudi Arabia Vision for 2030. We have Turkey Middle Corridor Initiative. Some other visions that countries are looking for. So BRI and China has been offering some needs or has been offering some alternatives to these countries. So there are some, for example, mostly, of course, we are talking about Gulf countries. For example, oil-producing countries in the Gulf would like to diversify their economies. They try to implement new development models, and they are getting inspired from China. And they shift away from traditional dependency oil to more hydrocarbon economies, for example. At the recent COP28 summit, you saw how crowded it was, and all countries from the region was very much involved in the hydrocarbon economy. So this is an important demand from Middle Eastern countries, and China can answer or offer some alternatives. So what China offers with BRI is very well aligned with those demands, such as infrastructure development, new energy sources, digital transformation, and emerging technologies. These countries, especially have big plans, they do see their future with China. So China and Middle Eastern countries, we can say, recalibrate or rediscover each other. So the second point is, of course, China seeks for promoting stable regional order and environment. And I'm sure Dilan Hoca will talk more about security aspect. And for China, stability and peace in the region is very much important for its economic interest. And the third point is, of course, gaining support for the countries for China's security and political interests. So we see how China used economic diplomacy, new economic diplomacy tools and factors to maximize this national interest. And the new trends I would like to mention. Of course, China has been expanding new areas of cooperation, including infrastructure, construction, finance, and medical. And also financial cooperation through FDI, swap agreements. AIIB, has been an emerging platform for financing those countries' projects. And promoting digital economy cooperation, building digital Silk Roads. Beijing is seeking to put itself in the leading position of technology investments. And just one example from Turkey, last year we organized two big Turkey-China business forum with TÜSİAD and CCPTI for promoting digital collaboration between Turkey and China. And two countries see this is an important potential collaboration area that both can work. So these are digitalization, technology, emerging technologies, AI, 5G. These are the areas that China has been seeking to put some alternatives to these countries. China also signed some MOUs with the countries in the region. For example, China-Arab States Cooperation, China-Gulf Cooperation, Council Strategic Dialogue. So you see there are some kind of new tools that China would like to implement in the region. And also, of course, providing economic and humanitarian aid. We see most of them at the post-COVID era, but also post-conflict reconstruction era that we are going to see. And I would like to emphasize more, I don't want to also waste my time with other points, but I would like to come to a point that BRI is a strategic framework and undeniably shaping the geopolitical landscape of the Middle East through strategic investments, enhanced connectivity, and economic diversification. It's still very much important for developing countries, which we call maybe global south. So such investments and connections are important than ever to maintain effective international trade routes that we all need. And this is BRI from China. This is China's contribution to the world. What about US? What about Japan? What about South Korea? What about Turkey? And these are all must be on the table and discussed by the countries, because we all need. And we recently see the Red Sea maritime disputes and everything. And the first question has been raised by the actors: how this will affect the international trade routes? How will this affect the international economic system? So each country have its own capability and strength to show. And this is from China, which is BRI. And we know BRI has been also evolving to many aspects. And we also have Global Development Initiative. We have Global Security Initiative. So the Chinese authorities are also well aware of the missing parts of BRI. And now we are talking about more green BRI. And we are talking more fair BRI or the others. So they're always, it's a work in progress. Even though we celebrated the 10th year of it last year, still there is a lot to discuss, and still there is a lot to fix in this huge geostrategic framework of China. Hocam, sorry, do we have still time or I'm not?
You have
Because
also 4 minutes, please. Go
okay,
ahead.
thank you so much. And so we see that China, the companies over there have grown beyond their traditional role as suppliers, the renewable energy components as well. So renewable energy, technology, these are other also factors that why China and Middle Eastern countries are getting closer to cooperate. And maybe your question I can just highlight, maybe I will put more words since I lived and worked in the United States in Washington, D.C. 2 years, when actually my ambitions to go to Asia Pacific was occurred that time when I visited libraries, I was at the meetings at the think tanks. I always hear the rise of China, and I was like, oh, I studied international relations, but I never been in Asia Pacific. So maybe this is the time that I need to go and try to understand a little bit. So that's why I would like to put some words. When I was living in the United States, of course, the first hot issue is how to counter Chinese BRI initiative, how to building allies, and then put something alternative to Chinese BRI. So these are still on the paper and still has been questioning. But of course, United States Build Back Better project or EU's Global Gateway or G7's Global Investment and Infrastructure Partnership. These are all in progress, but these are all initiatives that would like to. I don't want to use the words counter or against. I think there is no white and black in international relations. There's always pragmatic approach. And when we talk about today new Cold War, actually it's not a really Cold War that I believe. When you see Vietnam in Asia Pacific, who is having a strong ties with military-wise with US, but also very much economic ties with China. So how you can situate Vietnam in Cold War, new Cold War era? So there are still many issues, very complex, and maybe I would like to conclude this part that the world we are living in is super different than the world we were living in 10 years ago. Now it's very hyper connected world. It's very complex, and economy and security cannot really inseparable. And then mainly the security narratives are domaining with the economic policies. So these are mostly emerged, and economy, security, politics are very much emerged. And these are the issues that
last minute, please.
Western allies are very much watching. I think these are the new trends, and the Middle East will remain a key region for the BRI and China, but also other countries as well. Even though we are talking about the pivot of Asia Pacific from US side, it's still important to see the Middle East is a very important in international trade, and their consideration will be growing in this region as well. So thank you so much for this time. I think I should stop and give the floor to moderator. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Selma, for your insightful presentation on BRI's economic aspect in the Middle East context. Our second speaker is Dr. Ferhat Asif. Actually, you are from Pakistan. I would like to ask a special question as a case. As you know, also, in my opinion, also, China-Pakistan economic corridor is the most successful and tangible part of BRI, Belt and Road Initiative. How are the spec or China-Pakistan economic corridor shaping the geopolitical and geoeconomic landscape of the Central Asia? Also, it is a bit political question. What impact does China-Pakistan economic corridor have on Pakistan foreign policy? Because it will be a good case to understand what will be doing in future within the BRI context. Mostly is now the BRI is highlighting on the the economic narratives, but we don't know the geopolitical also is the political aspect so much. Please.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Omid. And first of all, I'm so grateful and honored to be amongst women leaders, especially focusing on geopolitical issues and geoeconomics. I'm so honored today, and I'm so happy that to be part of this panel. I'm grateful for the Global Trade Forum and the organizers for hosting this important conversation, especially in the times where we are living. So my name is Dr. Farhat Asif. I'm the founder president of the Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies, which is primarily a independent think and do tank. What we say about think and do tank is that we not only believe in thinking, but we also encourage the policymakers and engage them in conversation to do something also, not only having the conversations or academic discourses, but also shaping or helping the policymakers to move the policies and change the shapes of the foreign policy and engagements, not only at the regional level, but also at the global level. So at the Institute of Peace and Diplomatic Studies, we have several centers, including Center for BRI and China Studies, Center for SCO Studies, which is primarily focusing on the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, covering the entire region, almost 40% of the world. We have Center for Eurasia and Central Asia Studies, and Center for European Studies and American Studies as well. There's a very important center that we have established as well, Center for Women, Peace and Leadership, which is primarily focusing on the women's issues and their leadership in the country and across the globe as well. So about your question, I would like to start by saying that in 2001, there were two very important events happen globally. One event is 9/11, which has changed the shape of the security across the world, how we have looked at how countries are projecting their postures towards each other. But one of the most important thing, an event that we often miss in our analysis is China's presence, China's joining of World Trade Organization. And I think that many scholars also believe that China's presence and joining of World Trade Organization in 2001 is far more impactful than 9/11. Why? Because the presence and the events that you are looking at today is because of all these 23 years that we are looking at right now. And when you look at China's outreach globally, 40 years of their reform period, and then they open up to the world. China exploded inside about how economically they grew. Looking at, and if we evaluate the 40 years of reform period of themselves, and then the opening up to the world when they become part of the World Trade Organization. So what happened was that in 2013, China announced the Belt and Road Initiative there in Kazakhstan. And in that university and that statement where President Xi Jinping said about One Belt, One Road, which was later renamed because of his acronym, it was renamed as Belt and Road Initiative. Two kinds of maritime links, Silk Roads, and connectivity mammoth project over the land and sea. So primarily, since we are located in a region where Central Asian states, Pakistan is border with Afghanistan, Iran, India, and then we have our sea and closer to China, right? So this is the geographical location of Pakistan, which is making it very important pivotal position in entire BRI. So Gwadar Port is called as crown of BRI. Why? Because it gives the shortest route to the Chinese trade and their products to the sea onwards to the African markets and global markets. It's the shortest route. So because of the geographical position, Pakistan was given this entire, China-Pakistan economic corridor. So not only China-Pakistan economic corridor, there are other 6 more corridors as well, including in this huge mammoth project. If you look at the data that has been shared by various international organizations and research think tanks, when we look at the entire BRI, almost 20,000 projects are ongoing across the world. And there are $1 trillion in investment and built there. When we look at CPAC, it is $60+ billion of project. And currently we are standing at $20+ billion of projects had been completed. They're into their shaping, they are into, and of course the CPAC, entire CPAC is developed into a phase-wise project. So there were early harvest projects that are focusing on energy, transportation, communication. So what is exactly 2013 for Pakistan? So in 2013, in the time period when we signed this MOU, when we agreed to be part of this entire program, we were, knee deep in our terrorism. Pakistan was facing I still remember when I was in university and doing my MPhils and research works, I still remember I was thinking to go out in Islamabad, if I will come back alive home. It was in 2013. It was such a terrible position there in Pakistan. And at that time, this entire investment, it's a foreign direct investment. It's not just only a game changer for Pakistan. It is not only it was first foreign direct investment at that time came over. So because of that reason, and the time that was there in terrorism, Pakistan and Pakistanis continue to say, okay, we are so closer to China, because at that time there was no investment coming to Pakistan. So this investment came over, and we began working on the phase-wise development projects. Although there was a political and a lot of geostrategic push and pull factors are going on with Pakistan, because we were tilting towards Chinese collaborations and work, and at the same time, we're also being pulled towards the US and the allies factor as well. So there's a lot of interesting work is there for those researchers or academicians who are working on, especially on this subject. They can understand that what was happening and what could have been happened to Pakistan at that time. So at this moment, we are into the second phase. First phase is ended. Energy, our communication linkages are better because of the road projects, where we're supposed to reach at maybe 10 or 12 hours, we can reach 6 hours. Our market to farm, for example, villages or agriculture regions of Pakistan, where we do not have the maximum, excellent roads or network. Now we have connectivity is speed up. Then we also have the energy problems. I still remember those times we used to have 1 hour energy light coming in our homes and 1 hour load shedding. So at that time, so this has actually injected a lot of energy into Pakistan's energy crisis, energy systems that were going on. And then we have in our industry began taking small steps. But at the same time, there are a lot of hue and cry globally as well about China's engagement with Pakistan. A lot of I would not like to say propaganda, but I would like to say questions about how this engagement is ongoing. So the problem for Pakistan at the same time, I will not look at the theoretical works, but I would like to share with you that during this entire period from 2013 until 2023, we have nearly 4, 5, 6 prime ministers, national assemblies have gone by. We do not have a political stability, and that has also led us to have our own internal problems of governance, security issues, as we are borders with Afghanistan. We recently, a few days ago, we also have a highest level of, problem with Iran. They bombed us and we bombed them again at the border region, and it was a highest level of tension going on. And then yesterday, fourth international, there's a committee in the CPAC which looks at how the third party communication, how the third parties, for example, this is agreement between Pakistan and China, but how the third party, any other country, can collaborate or participate in this entire program. So when we look at this entire CPAC and factor that is ongoing in Pakistan, Central Asian republics are also looking for Pakistan as a potential because of their landlocked status, and they always need a room for their trade, their products going on, taking the shape from their places to onwards to Pakistan, onwards from Gwadar to global markets. And of course, at the same time, we want to have their place, vice versa is happening. So there is a lot of interest, both sides. We also are working with Central Asian republics, various, for example, Uzbekistan, Pakistan, Afghanistan. We have railway linkages. We are working on that. We also have a linkage with China, where our products can also go via Kyrgyzstan. Then we have also several linkages, but the problem factor in this entire BRI has remained as Afghanistan. And you must have seen that when the US left, the withdrawal and the aftermath of the withdrawal has also played a very important, significant role in how this entire gambit of geopolitical risks are there for the countries in the region. So we also have Central Asia has 5+1, where they are talking, China is talking with all the Central Asian republics. You have also the formula of the engagement, the country's engagement with the various international level countries, for example, US and allies. We recently also had solutions, there's, regional countries were hosting about how to resolve the issues related to Afghanistan and the problems that are facing the countries on the border region, especially Pakistan. We have also asked recently, because of the tensions between the two countries, we asked several millions of Afghans who are living here in Pakistan to go back. That was also a problem. And then over the time period, what we have seen and witnessed is that there has been challenges, but at the same time, there were opportunities as well. So it is not that there's just only a balancing factor that Pakistan is trying to balance between the two, but also trying to build its relationship with the regional countries, with its neighbor countries. We are such an interesting country where every province of our Pakistan geographically has one international border. And when we look at BRI, we also see that CPAC has one of the important component there in one of the Pakistani side of Kashmir, Azad Kashmir, what we call it. There's a project going on, so which is again a cause of tension between China and India. At the same time, we see a lot of tensions are going on, and as a result of BRI, recently you must have seen that there has been announcement about India, Middle East, economic corridor has also been announced in a kind of a counterbalancing all this what is happening in CPAC and others. So I would love to have more questions and conversations. And I think that I would not like to conclude here, but I would like to ask the colleagues who are, sitting around with us, they can ask more questions and I would love to answer. Thank you so much, Dr. 𝐿𝐿.
Thank you very much. Also, you were timely, you finished your presentation. Also, thank you for your insightful presentation on China-Pakistan economic corridor. It is very important case also to understand the BRI. And also our third and the last speaker is Diren from Alaaddin Keykubat University. Diren will talk about my question on the security and how are Chinese BRI shaping the security landscape of the Middle East, and what are the implications of Chinese security interest in the region, in the Middle East, I mean, for the regional powers such as Turkey, Iran, Saudi Arabia, US also, EU also is the, generally is NATO.
First of all, thank you very much. But if we will discuss about security and geopolitics, in my opinion, we need graphics and maps. And please let me share my presentation in this regard. Could you see it? Okay. Dear distinguished speakers and participants, first of all, it's my pleasure to be here and give this presentation, discuss on such these topics. Both experts mentioned quite important points. And as a last speaker, everything is difficult more than ever for me now, but I will try. Actually, in this session, I want to share my comments in the light on one of the latest BIR report, because the statistic is everything for us to understand BRI. And I will start the general perspective of BRI and take some conclusion about security and geopolitics in this regard. Since the first launch in BRI in 2013, this project has been evaluated with some doubtful definitions or thoughts, such as debt trap or China's geopolitical ambitions. On the other side, there are many case studies, such as the Gwadar port or the Piraeus port, or one of the most popular Humbontota port case. Even in Turkey, there is a Kum port case in BRI, and Ceren and Derya Hoca wrote this Kum port case story, and you can find also on the website. But today, with the assistance of this report, we can directly say that China, as an intelligence actor, shifted its BRI strategy from 1.0, firstly, 2.0. And after the 2023, we can directly say that it's reshaped its BRI strategy. And we can directly say now it's shaped from 2.0 to 3.0. And I mean, today, One Belt and Road Initiative is more complex, more whitewashed, and more flawed. This map will be helpful to understand many things. Actually, when I mention China, I usually define it as an octopus. And via this map, you can see out of some points, there is not a single territory that China is not interested in. However, today I want to clarify some points out of China's spreading role, such as current popularity of BRI, or China's power of global infrastructure, credit, and aid, or China's measurements to gain the Belt and Road for future projects. But this map is quite important in my opinion. I want to start question, and I want to get answers, and I want to explain it to you. First of all, I want to ask, is China still the single largest official source of aid and credit to developing world? The short answer is yes, because today Beijing is the world's largest official source of international development finance. Actually, China's aid and credits, especially to the low and middle income countries, hovering around the $80 billion per year. We need to focus on, I think, in this point, the great power competition, because as you know, the United States, the pressing itself to balance BRI, or China's geopolitical economical strategy. And when we look at Washington, now Washington provides approximately $60 billion per year to low and middle income countries. And it's really also important. On the other side, there are many tools to balance BRI, such as we heard in just a few months ago in G20 summit, IMEC, India, Middle East, European corridor. And it is also another tool to balance the Belt and Road. But together, when we look at with IMEC and the West countries' effort, especially G7 countries, they are forcing itself to compete China, but maybe it can be successful in short time, but also you can read reasons on the screen. On the long term, it seems really difficult to be success. As a second question, I want to ask how Belt and Road affected China's international perceptions. It's really interesting because China remains world's largest government debt collector. In the world, the more than 100 countries' first creditor is China. Even the United States' second creditor is China. The first one is Japan, and they are rising each other to be first one. It's really interesting because 55% of its loans, China's loans to low and middle income countries, have already entered their principal payback periods. And with numerous borrowing countries in the debt trouble, China's central bank widened emergency lending lines. It's really interesting, and the really important point is that China changing its role in international system. And on the left side also you can write directly, China is now moving from being the world's largest bilateral development creditor to the world's largest official debt collector. It's why it's important, because even United Nations General Assembly, all low and middle income countries feel themselves to give vote near the China side. When we look at the statistic, across all United Nations General Assembly, votes cost between 2000 and 2021, the governments of low and middle income countries aligned their foreign policy position with China 73%. When we look at the United States, it's just 23%, and they are really important rates. When we look at the feature, it's also really critical, because also you can see on the screen, there are different bodies of the BRI. First, it was peak. Second, it was correction session. And today, especially after the 2023, we can talk about new era of BRI. And now the Belt and Road is more try to itself more less risky, and focus on more the low risking projects, such as the like smarter projects, or the clean energy projects, or the low high quality but low money projects. It's really important. When we look at the geopolitical perspective, it is also quite critical point, because today we are talking about BRI project, but it is not only Belt and Road Initiative, it's also the Polar Silk Road, or there are also the Digital Silk Road. Today we are talking about peace cable, and on the other side there are many important the technological cables under the sea, and we can define them the undersea communication cables. And the risky point is that China, one of the biggest owners of cables, one of the biggest producer of these cables, and one of the biggest laying actor of these cables. At this point, we need to stay back and ask ourselves, is Belt and Road Initiative just economic, politic initiative, or also security and geopolitical initiative? Yes, the answer is yes, it's also security and geopolitical initiative. When we look at the Middle East, I think until the Israeli war, we can directly say that China has a good luck to get Middle Eastern countries take back their interest. But today, it's really interesting, and it's really a difficult position. China is also, because there are really critical task sharing between United States and China. Even the China entered this Middle East as a economic actor, but they share their security role between United States and China. I have an example. For example, China did the military exercise with Saudi Arabia, but not in Middle East, or not territory of the Saudi Arabia. China did this the military exercise in the South China Sea, because this area still the United States security area, and the United States also leader security partner of these countries. And I can resume the question and answer in my opinion. Thank you for listening and patience.
Dr. Amit, you are mute.
Oh, sorry, I'm also forgetting. I forget. Thank you very much, Direm, for your insightful presentation on the security, BRI security aspects in the context Middle East. Okay, now we have a few questions, and we can start from maybe from the Sertaç Çelik. There's a question: do you think China could replace the USA as a new external leading actor in the region? Actually, I would like to, I am also wondering this answer from the economic aspect. Is possible in China can replace the USA in the region?
Can I?
Maybe to Selma Hanım is better. Maybe it's the economics.
Yeah.
As an economic aspect, from economic aspect.
No, of course, please, Ms. Farhat, you start your raise. No worries.
Okay, please. Okay.
So my, replacement of any country in any region is not possible. We can say that they will be they will make sure that they, coexist, or maybe there are rise of the conflicts, or what you say, competition between the US and China. So replacement is like you're completely nullifying a country from the presence. So in the Middle East, what will continue to happen is that there will be continuously competition going on. Push and pull factor will continue happening across the world. As my outset, I said that the presence of the Chinese presence, global outreach, will continue to double. And of course, when you look at the data, and as my colleagues also shared, when you look at the data, there are continuously competition happening, not only in the Middle East. If you look at the ASEAN region, if you look at the Central Asian region, Gulf, if you look at African region, there continuously a competition happening between the two. And it's a global, phenomenon that is ongoing right now.
Oh, okay.
In addition to her remarks, I also agree that there won't be any replacement in any regional policies. For example, these are the questions: is China going to be replace US as another biggest soft power? Is China becoming another biggest military power? This and that. Replacement is not in the right question. The question is how these trends of China's growing influence in the Middle East will continue. You cannot really, of course, I'm working on more economic diplomacy sector or area, but of course the numbers show something. But the most important question of how other actors is gonna involve in the region, as our speakers mentioned here from IMEC and the Japan's projects, other middle powers or big powers involving in the Middle East. So I don't think so there will be a replacement of China or US in any kind of race in this context. It's more about creating alternatives and offering this to your audience. And most importantly, these worlds that we are living in Asia Pacific and also Middle East, Gulf countries, countries don't want to stuck at two big powers. Countries are more pragmatic. The borders, the alliance are more, let's say, flexible. So the powers would like to get what they want to get from which camp. So there is no one big power will serve to all. There will be always competition, as Dr. Asif mentioned. So I don't think so China will replace the US. And of course, now US is the biggest economy in the world and China has been following. But of course, the economists can talk more about the numbers. But I think there will be a big competition is happening, has been happening in the region, in Asia Pacific, in the Middle East, in Latin America as well, backyard of US, but we see Chinese growing influence there. So these are the areas that both countries can can offer some kind of geopolitical dimensions to others.
Thank you. Also, Diane, would you like to make a contribution from security aspect?
Yes, in my opinion, there is invisible task sharing, as I mentioned before, and the United States still the first military partner in Middle Eastern countries. On the other side, Xi Jinping defines its energy policy as we need to keep our energy bubble. It's really important definitions, and in my opinion, the China's future strategies will be firstly on energy security and secondly economy. When until United States and China come across, this process will be go on, in my opinion.
Okay. Also, this question to Diren: what is the current position of China on Turkish Syria policy? Turkish Syria policy.
Actually, I don't have an answer in my pocket because I'm not expert of the Middle East and China relations, but I can maybe send this question to 𝐂𝐤𝐲 because he is also one of the China experts, and I know that he focuses on Syria issue. But in my opinion, maybe I can open just small box in here, but out of expertise. The Syria issue quite a sensitive issue, and until the process and Turkey and China table, this issue can't discuss, in my opinion, but I'm not sure.
Okay, and there are other questions on the Pakistan and also the Pakistan-China relations. BRI's Port Gwadar is close to Iran, and the relation between Iran and Pakistan are in difficulty. So what will China do to protect the balance and peace in this situation, since both the port and oil from Iran is imported to China?
Yeah. I think that I was expecting this answer to question to come up because recently you must have seen that Iran has bombed one of the region in Pakistan called Balochistan, which is bordering Iran. They have attacked the terrorists, Jaish-ul-Adl's places there in our part. And still we do have the continuous communication, but this was happened when both Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister of Iran was meeting in Davos. It was happening at the same time. It happened at the same time. So Pakistan retaliated, and they made the similar kind of attacks on the Balochistan on the side of Iran. So at the same time, when this happened, can you imagine that after almost 48 hours, when Pakistan bombed, they will begin to happen the tweets and rhetoric from both sides were like brotherly. It was one of the most magnificent series of conversations, Twitter and statements that I've seen, that two countries bombed each other and they begin to saying, and the nuances, a sense were coming from both foreign offices were like, we are both brothers, and there was support that and stuff like that. And can you imagine that Pakistan also asked the Iranian ambassador to go back? There was cut off the diplomatic ties for only 3 days. On 26th of January, Foreign Minister of Iran will be coming to Pakistan. So it was so quick that you can imagine that, and also there was a statement from the Chinese Foreign Ministry that China will be mediating between the two. And you can sense that there is a strong, sense coming that this de-escalation was coming not only from China, but also a country which has came up to mediate between the two, to de-escalate the tension between the two. So China was one of the most important countries, is an important gelling factor between Pakistan and Iran. And significant because we are also having our Gwadar port, again, a very important pivotal position, important support of China in BRI, which is called as crown of jewel of BRI. And then at the same time, you must have seen that Iran has signed 25 years of agreement of cooperation, economic collaboration with China. So at the same time, when you look at this push and pull factor, again, I'm saying that because this is something which was there at the beginning of this crisis that happened between the two, and it de-escalated. So I am also saying that in the Middle East, again, when you look at how Chinese factor was enabling factor in resolving the issues between Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Iran, and other factors, I would see that there is a lot more, a peaceful presence of China. And of course, they're also increasing their public acceptance, their presence in Middle East, in the region, so that they can be part of kind of a checkmating a country or alliances where they are more into conflicts than on negotiation and bringing down the heats among the countries. So this is my point, that China will always be a factor for stabilizing between Pakistan and Iran. Yes.
Thank you. Also, is the recent crisis between the Iran and Pakistan.
Yeah.
Also, is the hot topic. Thank you for your answer. Also, this is the other question. What will the global warming and opening of the North Ice Sea to shipping change in Chinese interest in BRI and Middle East? Actually, who would like to give answer to this question?
So it is more connected to the global warming and the
Yes.
climate change presence, and it will be affecting most of the time those countries who are coming under the sea in next 25 years, because we are rising globally. We have almost 1.5 degrees temperature globally is rising, and we are facing a lot more challenge in the climate. And of course, BRI, which is more towards the maritime Silk Road, which is connected. So I think that those ports which are connecting the maritime trade and the linkages, for example, there are also apprehensions about those countries who are on the sea, who are risk of coming down. Then that will be a challenge for China, not only China. So it will be challenging for the countries who are connected on the maritime, and they're based on that. So I think that would answer the question.
Oh, thank you. Also, for this is related to this question on the shipping lane, and also is from the security aspect. I would like to ask to Diran, what about the Houthi? Did in Yemen Houthis attack to some ships? How will affect how will affect the Chinese BRI policy or Chinese approach to the Middle East, or especially on the Yemen and the Iran? As also everyone know, the Houthi is also backed by Iran.
Especially there was a Malacca dilemma, especially Chinese Malacca dilemma, and today we are directly talking about the Houthi dilemma because of this Red Sea's road is disrupted, and all ship lines turning around the African continent. And the main problem is that the Asia Pacific, especially the South China Sea, has a really important role, transferring, I think, more than 70% of global goods. And because of these Red Sea attacks, the China firstly said we can be a good and we can take important role in this situation. But on the next session, I think the China will be take important role to solve this problem. But now is the scene is the United States.
Yeah, I think I would like to also add about the Houthi factor, because China is taking a very calculated stance on this entire situation. So they are not saying bluntly or whatever, in a words, but they are more diplomatic at the same time, because of the continuous engagement of the U.S. and allies in this entire Middle East conflict and crisis. They're very much careful of what the level of engagement of them in the entire conflict depends on that how they are calculating. They're just wait and see stance is there. However, what they're trying to do is if you look at their statements and regular foreign office statements are coming, primarily they're focusing more on asking for de-escalation, utilizing the diplomatic rhetoric, and stuff like that. And of course they are trying to I cannot say how the back channel diplomacy is working and how the engagement is ongoing. But at the same time, when you look at face of it, it's a more diplomatic rhetoric coming from Beijing most of the time on this issue.
And may I also add on this, Ümit Hocam?
Please.
And also, when we are talking more about Chinese diplomatic efforts in the region, it's also too early to say China is a broker, China is a solver, China is the one who just came and solved everything. This is not really true. China was an untested power since he was evolving in the Middle East after 2010. With the Arab Spring, they were quite hesitant to support because of the other issues, and they don't want to involve in. Of course, they still have the principle of non-involving any political disputes in the Middle East. But I also saw question when it comes to their economic interests, China has been involving, and this is a new trend, has been involving, loudly saying something to both sides. And Iran and Pakistan, on the other hand, they are both Chinese very close friends, very close friends in international relations. And, when I was in Islamabad, when I went to the airport, when I see there's a gate, only Chinese citizens enter and get out the country. So it was something very tangible, very visible. So you can see how China and Pakistan are distinguished fellow friends here, very much engaged. And I just want to mention again, because these are all very historical rooted problems, and China is a newcomer to the region and evolving on these issues. So it's good to watch this trend and see how China has been evolving. And also, of course, there are some very specific questions, but I want to say China is one of the largest, not one of the, also largest trading partner of 10 countries in the Middle East, and they are Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE. So it's not really easy to China just see and don't do anything. Of course, they are emerging as a facilitator. They are emerging as a hosting some kind of platforms. They are emerging as a not breaker, let's say icebreaker to bring Saudi Arabia and Iran together. But we shouldn't hope like, okay, now China is here, so all problems we're gonna solve. As Diran Hanım mentioned very well, still US is an important security. The US, let's say, historical involvement is still based in this security architecture in the Middle East, and it goes all the way before the even World War I. So this is an important to not exaggerate Chinese role in the region, but also appreciate their efforts to make deal and bring sides together with a transactional or pragmatic reason we can discuss. But it's very important to have such kind of actor, and they are mostly welcome from the audience in the Middle East when you compare to US or European external powers in the region.
Thank you for your explanation. Actually, there is no more question. Also, would like to add some things, our speaker. Dr. Ferhat Asif, would you like to add something? Or your last words?
Yeah, I'm so grateful and honored. And of course, for those audience who are still with us, I'm thankful for their presence as well and learning. And we had learned a lot from your question as well. But I would really like to encourage those academics and people and students and for us all as well. We need to look at China not as a as something which is more. I would like to use that question about replacement. About of course, every country has its national interests, and they are international law is legitimizing them to solve those reach those national goals and interests. So every country has the opportunity in the global arena to outreach to the regions and continue contributing towards the betterment of the world. Either it's a global climate change, energy security, food security, peace and stability. Of course, these countries are very much important to part of the UN Security Councils. Their role are all the time very much important. And countries like Pakistan, for example, we are at the receiving end of all that is happening in the region. And of course at the global arena. But at the same time, what we expect from these countries is that they're mindful and of course a sensible approach to international law and of course international security is very much appreciated from all quarters, all the regions. So I must say that we all need to continuously focusing on understanding Chinese dynamics, of course the US and allies. And at the same time, I'm of course grateful to the Global Trade Forum for these kind of opportunities where we women especially participating and representing our countries and our institutions and contributing meaningfully in our conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Selma, please. Would you like to say something? So your last sentence.
Yeah, of course. I think this is a time that we thank to the organizers, and I saw on the attendees list we have many distinguished ambassadors there. We learned a lot from them in their diplomatic ways to interact with other countries, and I saw a couple names. There are leaders that we learned a lot. I'm thankful for their attending today, and for the audience for the mostly the Turkish audience, I would like to just emphasize. We really need to understand more about Asia Pacific, and I encourage the students here to listen and to read more about Asia Pacific because the future is there. And when I say Asia Pacific, when I say Asia, of course, there are many countries including, but mostly China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Southeast Asia, because we will see more competition there. We see the South China Sea issues, maritime issues. I think it is important to build our focus. Of course, we know we've been living here, the Middle East, it's the region that we've been living in, but also to see some other dynamics, it's going to be in Asia Pacific because it will determine our future in the economic security sense, like hardcore security sense, the others as well. So I'm just my humble suggestion to follow things in Asia Pacific and try to live in the region like yourself, Ümit Hocam, and learn the languages and then be a real expert on the issues that we have been discussing. And thank you so much for the opportunity. Very nice to meet you, all of you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, our last speaker, Diren, would you like to add some things?
Yes, as a Turkish scholar and PhD student, I'm so happy to study on Asia Pacific, especially after the Selma Hanım's speech. And it was an honor to me to explain my thoughts on BRI. And thank you for all organizers. Thank you.
Okay, time is over. Thank you all for being part of today's webinar. It has been a pleasure hosting this session, and I hope you found it both informative and engaging. Before we wrap up, I want to express our gratitude to our speaker, Selma, Ferhat, and Diren, and to all of you for your participation. On behalf of the APC Ankara Policy Center and the Global Trade Forum, thank you for joining us today. Have a wonderful evening. Goodbye and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.